From Dallas to Los Angeles and a screen near you, here is B Wildcat 2.
Alright guys, Big 14, Week 14, Episode 14, 14's gone wild. Anyway, so last time around I said that this would be the last regular season week, and that's true, but there is also Week 15, but most of the Big 14 teams do not play next week. We'll take a look here in just a minute at who does and who doesn't, but let's see who we got. Nebraska. I bet this is their last game, because this is they're taking on Notre Dame, who's 8-3, 5-3 in Big 10 play, number 23 in the country. Nebraska 7-4, 5-3 in the Big 14 play. We'll take a look at Week 15, and sure enough, Nebraska is done after this game. So either Nebraska will be 8-4 or they'll be 7-5, but that'll be at the end of the video, you guys. The Utah Utes, number 12 in the country, 10-1, 8-1 in Pac-10 play, excuse me. Taking on Colorado, who had a bad season, 3-8, 2-6. Rivalry game. Throw all the records and all the statistics out the door. It will be Utah 31, Colorado 3. Colorado breathes a sigh of relief as they finish their first season in the Big 14 without going to bowl game. They're done at 3-9, 2-6 in Big 14 play. Utah celebrates an 11-1 regular season record and 8-1 record in the Pac-10 or Mountain West. Excuse me, they're in the Mountain West if I remember right. I can't remember. We'll take a look here whenever, maybe. I don't know. I don't care. Anyway, Cincinnati, South Florida. That ought to be a good one as Cincinnati looks to advance to 10-1. Georgia Tech and Georgia. Georgia Tech looks to become 11-1 and knock off, excuse me, Ranger Assassin 7. I need you to move, please. Thank you. Looks to knock off the 8-3 Georgia Bulldogs, who are number 15 in the country. Baylor 4-7 on the season, 2-5 in Big 14 play. They're taking on the 7-3 Texas Tech Red Raiders, who still have a game to go, I believe. Next week they play someone. They're 4-3 in conference play. Baylor may just be looking to end their season at 4-8, or they'll look to win. It'll be Texas Tech will end Baylor's season with a 38-19 victory over the Baylor Bears. Baylor falls to 4-8, 2-6 in conference play in the first season of the Big 14. Texas Tech improves to 8-3, 5-3 overall, or 5-3, 8-3 overall, 5-3 in the Big 14, with a game still to play next week, I believe. Boston College, NC State in the ACC, Wisconsin and Penn State. That ought to be a good one. Penn State looking to pull off the upset of Wisconsin, but they probably won't. Big 10 battle over there. Ohio State and the Michigan Wolverines. The Buckeyes and the Wolverines. Michigan looks to finish at 6-6 and knock off Ohio State. That would do them just wonders if they could do that. But Arkansas and LSU, the battle for the Golden Boot. Number 1 versus number 24. That could be an upset. If Arkansas loses, they'll finish 7-5. If LSU wins, they will finish 11-0, or they'll be 11-0. Oregon State and Oregon in the Civil War. Iowa State 4-6. They've got a game to go, I believe. Iowa State and Texas Tech play next week, but we'll get there next week when we get there. So Iowa State 4-6, 3-4 in conference play. They need to win this week at West Virginia in Morgantown against the 7-3 Mountaineers, who are 4-3 in conference, 22 in the country. West Virginia, if they've already clinched their bowl eligibility with 2 games to go. Iowa State needs a win just to be eligible to go to a bowl. West Virginia will already be going to one, so we'll see how this game plays out. It will be West Virginia will barely pull this one out, 24-21, knocking off Iowa State and ending Iowa State's hopes and dreams of going to a bowl game. Their season's over, but they've still got a game to play. They're 4-7, 3-5 in conference play. West Virginia, after winning 24-21, is now 8-3, 5-3 in conference play, with a game still to play next week, I believe. So Iowa, USC, that ought to be a really good matchup there. Auburn and Alabama in the game of the week there. Virginia and Virginia Tech, all these rivalry games are great. Arkansas State and Navy. How is Arkansas State ranked at 9-1, 7-0 in the Sun Belt? Navy 7-3, 6-2 in the Sun Belt. South Carolina, number 7 in the country, taking on Clemson. That's a rivalry game. Here we go. Texas at 7-3, 4-3 in conference play. Number 19 in the country. They traveled to Fort Worth to take on the TCU Horned Frogs, who are 4-6, 1-6 in conference play. TCU needs a victory if they want to have any hope of going to a bowl game. Both of these teams will have a game after this one. But what will happen? Will TCU pull off the upset? No, they will not. Texas wins 13-7 over the Horned Frogs. TCU could have won, but they did not have enough time after they scored. They were down for most of the game. They hadn't even scored until the fourth quarter. So Texas ends TCU season. Texas now 8-3, 5-3 in conference play. TCU falls to 4-7, 1-7 in conference play. That's pitiful, TCU, and I like TCU, but that's still pitiful. So TCU still got one game to go, looking to improve to 5-7, but they're not going to a bowl game, you guys. The Bedlam Series. This is the game of the week in the Big 14. Number 5, Oklahoma, 9-1 on the season, 6-1 in conference play. Oklahoma State, 11th in the country, 8-2, 5-2 in conference play. This will decide the Big 12 or the Big 14 South Division. If there was a championship game, that the winner of this one would go on to take on Kansas State in the Big 14 championship game. But since there's not, this is just for all the bragging rights. Who will win the Bedlam Series? Both of these teams will have a game next week. Oklahoma over Oklahoma State in Stillwater, 40-13. Oklahoma is now 10-1 on the season, 7-1 in conference play. Oklahoma State falls to 8-3, 5-3 in conference play. Both of these teams, like I said, will have a game next week. But we got Washington State they've already clinched a bowl game. They're looking to knock off their rivals, the Washington Huskies, who are number 9th in the country, 10-1 record. That's a rivalry game there. Next up, we'll take a look at the Big 14. The only game besides Nebraska and Notre Dame that we haven't looked at is Missouri. They are 6-5, 3-4 in conference play. They're going to take on the Texas A&M Aggies. Both of these teams are 6-5. A&M is 4-3 in conference play. Missouri is 3-4. Both of these teams moved to the SEC only to move back when they realized that they were both stupid and needed to come back to the Big 14. Who will go? Both of these squads have clinched, have bowl eligibility, but which one of these squads will finish 6-6 and which one of them will finish 7-5 and will be going to the bowl game? Missouri, Texas A&M. Texas A&M knocks off the Missouri Tigers, and most likely Missouri will end their season at 6-6, 3-5 in conference play. Texas A&M improves to 7-5, 5-3 in conference play, with a 49-7 victory over the Missouri Tigers. Missouri died in misery after that loss. Yeah, you see what I did there? Yeah, I'm creative sometimes. So Nebraska, 7-4, 5-3 in conference play. They're taking on Notre Dame, who's 8-3, 5-3 in their conference play. Both of these squads are looking to win their final game on the season. What will happen? It will be Notre Dame will pull off the victory, 31-24, just barely over Nebraska. But Nebraska falls to 7-5. They finish with a 5-3 record in conference play. Notre Dame improves to 9-3, still with that conference record of 5-3. So Nebraska finishes at 7-5. They will be going to a bowl game. Notre Dame, however, will be as well. They're not in the same conference, they're not in this. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. So Nebraska, not Colorado. Nebraska, Texas Tech. West Virginia, Texas A&M, maybe Missouri, Texas, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State will be going to bowl game. I don't know if there's. We'll take a look at the week 15. Actually, there's no more games, so I guess they just didn't get to. They didn't get to schedule their next game. So these squads that have 10 or 11 games, like Texas Tech, they don't get another game until the bowl game. West Virginia, Texas, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State, they don't get another game until their bowl game. So that does it for week 14. We're going to go ahead and send past week 15 and into the bowl week. So this ought to be a longer video than the others, but it shouldn't take too much longer. Advancing to week 15, Nebraska finishes at 7-5. There are no Big 14 games in week 15, so we'll look at those matchups, and then we'll sim to the conference championship week, and then we will sim to the bowl week as we finish up episode 14, and we will have the bowls in episode 15. As soon as this thing finishes, we will get into looking at the games that will be played in week 15. It's got to get through the recruits that we're not even doing because we're just simulating, and we're seeing how this conference would have done as a whole. We'll take a look after week 15 at how all the teams did in their conferences and all that good stuff. But first off, we got to get through all this garbage of advancing and taking 500,000 years to advance. So, scheduling visits, collecting stories for the NCAA news article. Yay! Alright, so compiling stats, preparing studio updates for the games that we won't be playing. Nebraska gets a 1-star middle linebacker. Wonderful. That ought to help them. Maybe they won't be 7-5 next year. Maybe they'll be 8-4. Yeah. I kid, of course, but still. So bye week. We'll take a look over here at the scores and schedules for this week. As it takes a look. Louisville and Rutgers. Neither of these teams are ranked. South Florida, Pittsburgh. Most of these are Big East games, like Cincinnati and Connecticut. Oregon and UCLA, that ought to be a good one. That will decide who gets the better record. Will UCLA finish at 10-2, and Oregon finish at 8-4, or will both of these squads finish at 9-3? Oregon State looking to become 6-6, trying to knock off the #1 USC Trojans, who they probably won't, but anyway, that's the top 25 games, and then there's various other games that people have to finish, like the Navy-Army game, and not too many games this week, but we'll simulate to the conference championships next week, and then we'll look at the final standings as the season's almost over. Everybody's got to go to bowl game and do all that stuff. It's got to fill the recruiting boards. I don't think it took this long when we did week 1 and week 2. I don't remember. But you never know. So, of course, there's all the recruits that have to sign now. So, now it's got to progress the recruits to their new universities or get them back home or whatever they do. Now it's got to rate the teams. Playtime. Yay, it's playtime! Play style. How are you guys going to play while you're playing? I don't know. Alright, hurry up, hurry up. Let's go. Championship contender, conference prestige. Collecting stories for the NCAA news article. Collecting stats for the NCAA news article. And preparing studio updates that will not be heard. Auto saving in progress. So we'll be here in the conference championship week in just a minute. Probably less than that. Probably right about now. Oh, I called it. Alright, so here we go. We'll take a look at the scores and schedules for this conference championship week. UCF and Tulsa for the Conference USA title. NC State 9-2, 7-1 in ACC play, number 8 in the country, taking on Virginia Tech for the ACC championship. South Carolina and LSU for the SEC championship. Ohio, Toledo for the MAC championship. Fresno State, Utah for the Mountain West Conference championship. Iowa, Wisconsin in the game of the week for the Big Ten championship game. And Kansas State, number 12 in the country, 8-3, 6-2 in Big 14 play, taking on the Oklahoma Sooners, who are 10-1, number 4 in the country, 7-1 in conference play for the Big 14 championship. There is a championship game after all, and it will be the Kansas State Wildcats will pull off the upset 28-23 over the Oklahoma Sooners in something that no other team, well, one other team was able to do all season long. Kansas State improves to 9-3, 7-2 in Big 14 play. Oklahoma falls to 10-2, 7-2 in conference play after Kansas State pulls off the upset 28-23. So we'll take a look at the conference standings, and then that will be the video. I hope you guys have enjoyed Week 14 thus far. Been a very long video. So Big 12 Division A, Kansas State finished with a 7-2 conference record. 1 game ahead, or 2 games ahead, a half game, wait, that's 1.5 games ahead of Nebraska and West Virginia. West Virginia probably should finish in second place since they had the better overall record. Or did Nebraska beat West Virginia? I don't know. Nebraska finishes in second place. Missouri finishes in third, fourth. Iowa State, Colorado, and Kansas round out the Big 12 Division A. In the Big 12 Division B, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, then A&M, Texas Tech, and Texas all log-jammed right there behind Oklahoma. Baylor and TCU finished behind them. So that's it for that. Big East was won by Cincinnati, Louisville, Syracuse, Temple, and Rutgers all 1 game behind there against Cincinnati. South Florida and Pittsburgh and Connecticut finished there. Big Ten overall, Wisconsin, Iowa, Notre Dame, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, Minnesota, Northwestern, Purdue, Illinois, and Indiana. They're in the Big Ten. In the Conference USA, Tulsa, Houston, Rice, Central Florida, Southern Miss, SMU, Marshall, UTEP, ECU, Memphis, UAB, and Tulane. The Independents, Army, 7-5. They must have knocked off Navy. The MAC, Toledo, Ohio, Bowling Green, Northern Illinois, Western, then Eastern Michigan, Buffalo, then Central Michigan, Ball State, Kent State, UTSA, and Miami University, and then Akron, and UMass finishes at 1-11. I'm sorry, not a fan. Hey, UTSA almost was 500. That's pretty good for their first year in the MAC. Whoops, didn't want to do that, but we'll come back and look at the teams that how they did past the MAC, and then plus we probably should look at the ACC. It was Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech, then NC State, Miami, Florida State, North Carolina, Clemson, Virginia, Maryland, Wake Forest, Duke, and Boston College finishes in last place. So now we go to the Mountain West. Utah, San Diego State, Fresno State, Air Force, Nevada, Boise State in 6th place, surprisingly. Colorado State, Hawaii, BYU, Wyoming, UNLV, and New Mexico in last place there. That was the Mountain West. The Pac-10 now with 10 teams. Washington and USC finished tied, as Washington has the advantage because they beat USC in the head-to-head matchup. Oregon, then UCLA, Stanford, Washington State, Oregon State, Arizona, and Cal in last place there. The SEC, LSU, 10-1, South Carolina, Alabama all finished there log-jammed right there. Arkansas, Georgia, Auburn, Florida, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Tennessee in last place there. In the Sun Belt, Arkansas State, FIU, Navy in 3rd place, UL Lafayette, North Texas at 5 and 7, Western Kentucky, Florida Atlantic, Troy, Middle Tennessee State, and Louisiana Monroe in the Sun Belt. That's how the Sun Belt rolls. And in the WAC, Louisiana Tech, Utah State, San Jose State, Texas State almost finished at 500 with a 5-7 record in their first year in the WAC. New Mexico State and Idaho in the WAC. So that's it. That's it for the conference championship weeks. Come back next time. We will go to the bowl games and we will see how your Big 14 fared in their bowl games. So come back for that, you guys. We'll talk to you then. See you guys. Oh, and if this video wasn't already long enough, we got the news that Monty Ball has won the Heisman. So congratulations to you. You finish ahead of Marcus Lattimore by about 600 plus votes. The Alabama running back finished behind Lattimore. Then the quarterback from Iowa finished in 4th, and Florida State's own quarterback finished in 5th place with 45 total votes. Well, that's bad. That's really bad. So, as you do see, indeed, that Nebraska will be taking on Navy in the Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl. Nebraska at 7-5 and 5-3 in Big 14 play. Navy at 8-4, 7-2 in the MAC play, I believe. So, yeah, they will be played in San Francisco on December 31st. So come back for that, you guys. That'll be episode 15, as we are almost done with the first season here in the Big 14.